Why do they have the go? Why do they have the power? Why?
Hey, everybody.
I'm Jan.
And I'm Paul.
And welcome
to the
Shadowcast.
All right. Nice to be back.
It is.
Kind of a cool experience, right? We just started this last week. And put our first two videos out. We had amazing results. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
1,000 subscribers in 2 videos. We're thrilled.
Please send it to your friends. That's not too much to ask.
Yeah, and like and subscribe, as they say.
Yeah. So today we got an interesting topic. I'm super interested in it, which is this new Supreme Court ruling that took place that makes it a crime to
We forgot to toast.
Toast first. Cheers. Cheers, you guys.
Ciao.
We are talking about the new Supreme Court ruling that has, as people are interpreting it, basically it's going to criminalize homelessness and give states the power to fine and create some sort of consequence for sleeping or in public, basically. And I came across this video as I was watching videos about it. I came across this video from a channel called Secular Talk, which is, I think, does a great job of summing up how it seems like the majority of people are looking at it. And I think he's definitely a lefty looking at it like the poor, homeless, and the mean, evil, stupid government,
It's all capitalism's fault.
Well, I don't know. Let's play clip 1 and see what you think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Insane things like this. You know what else they come up with? Insane things like this. Supreme Court says restrictions on homeless people not cruel and unusual. The Supreme Court sided with a small southern Oregon town in a 6-3 ruling Friday, saying it has the authority to enforce ordinances that criminalize behaviors associated with being unhoused, like sleeping or camping on public property or parks, even when no shelter is available. The decision effectively gives the okay to other metropolitan areas struggling with rising homelessness to enact similar restrictive laws targeting outdoor camping. Quote, we are disappointed that a majority of the court has decided that our Constitution allows a city to punish its homeless residents simply for sleeping outside with a blanket to survive the cold when there is nowhere else for them to go. So in other words, they can ban camping. They can ban camping on public property, even if there is no other place for the homeless to go. They're still allowed to do the sweep of the encampments and to destroy whatever private property.
Yeah. So there's the intro to it. I think he does a pretty good job of trying to describe it. What do you take it? What's your take on it so far?
Well, I think the homeless problem is a big problem, and it's interesting that the way that they're deciding to attack the problem is to attack the poor people and not necessarily look at the economic problems in the United States.
Yeah, so I think basically this. I think that's just the gist. Is, that this guy's sort of taking on, which is like you're criminalizing having bad luck, right? Or you're criminalizing
having no place to live.
Poverty, or you're being poor,
right,
and struggling. So I think that's a pretty valid. I definitely can see from that perspective. Like, okay, yeah, of course it's not fair to somebody that's genuinely struggling and like I'm sure everybody, and yourself included, I'm sure has seen dozens of videos where it's the struggling mom and she left the husband, and there's any number of stories out there that'll tug on your heartstrings and say, there, but for the grace of God go I, right? And that you defend them in some sense that like, could, with the idea like it could happen to anyone. And like, aren't we abusing our good fortune by by not taking better care of the homeless themselves and providing for them. But I think that's just like, I don't know. I think that's such a naive view, you know.
And I think there's a surprising number of new homeless that, didn't expect to ever be homeless, and society didn't expect them to, one bad break or whatever, I mean.
So, yeah, I mean, I think at this stage, he seems to just be upset by the fact that it seems like such an unfair law. And so on one side, I think, like, I don't know, like, my perception is he's just sort of like a little bit maybe asleep, or he's still sort of like a believer in the system, and he thinks like these fucking guys show up on the Supreme Court like noblemen.
And we've voted Democrat, and they're supposed to take care of the people.
Yeah,
and
they're there for us.
And what's wrong with the welfare system and the this and the that?
And that's horseshit. I mean, it's a Republican Supreme Court. Who do you think they're there for? You think they're there for you? It doesn't matter whether you're a Republican or you're a Democrat or whatever you are. The only thing I can promise you is no one on the Supreme Court gives a fiddly fuck about you. They're there to serve the interests of the Republicans. They're there to support the old guard, right? Like, I mean, well, anyway.
And again, it's a bigger economic problem. It's not that we should have some money for people who are in a temporary situation for a while. The U.S. has a lot of homeless people now.
Oh, it's an epidemic.
It's an epidemic. Here's one funny part about it, if you can find a funny part about it, is when toward the middle to the end of COVID, I saw this story where there were, like in California, in certain places, probably San Francisco, whatever, it might even have been L.A., 60% of the Amazon packages were going missing off of people's porches, and it was the homeless people that were stealing them.
Pirating.
And in the homeless camps, they would find all the boxes, all the empty boxes, and they had this like extra cleanup they had to do. I told my daughter this story, and she laughed like crazy. She thought it was great that the homeless people were getting all these random Amazon gifts.
I guess in some way, like you think you're sticking it to Amazon, but like you're not sticking it to Amazon, you're sticking it to the people. To the people ordering this shit, stuff. Right?
And it probably wasn't anything
enough.
They needed. It wasn't gloves and blankets and stuff. Who knows what the hell it was? Fancy shampoo or.
Yeah, and then they're just hawking the shit on crackpipe.org or whatever, wherever they sell their stolen goods. So anyway, let's watch the second clip.
Okay.
Closed food. They can basically kick homeless people out of these public areas, even if they don't have anywhere else for them to go. Now, I need you to stop and think about the logical implication of that, right? Think of the logical implication of that. Let's say you get a law like this across the country, right? Sorry, homeless people, we know we don't have any shelters for you, but you can't be here in public. Well, then that means you have effectively criminalized homelessness without providing people a roof over their head. So what are they supposed to do? According to the government, they're supposed to just not exist. So
it's not don't be homeless, it's don't be seen being homeless.
Yeah, and I think the guy gets a little bit like amped up, you know what I mean? I mean, like I really question how he's putting his thoughts together there, because I'm not so sure it means that you're not allowed to exist. I'm pretty sure it means you can't fucking sleep in the middle of the street in the middle of the day, or have like a little homeless squat that you've built out of all of the things that you found along your day in the middle of a fucking suburban neighborhood where people actually buy houses. So,
or in front of somebody's business.
Yeah, like, okay, like, are we going to now say, like, is this guy saying, hey, capitalism is bad and we're gonna revamp the entire fucking system? Because last time I checked, like, this guy and everybody else, they're making money and they're happy about it, and they don't fucking donate it all to homeless people, right? And if you buy a house in the middle of some nice neighborhood and you got a bunch of hobos sleeping out in front of your place, what the fuck, man? Like, I don't want, and then, like you just said, then you gotta be worried about you better have Ring doorbell because you're gonna have your fucking packages ripped off your front porch. Like, you're paying what?
Or your business goes down because people don't want to come there
thousands
anymore.
of dollars a month in a mortgage payment to pay for the sidewalk where these guys are just sleeping. I mean, I know it sounds maybe like a little bit heartless, but at the same time, like I think we have this idea whenever somebody goes and does something, like we sort of romanticize we always, like, everybody always picks, like, what about this poor lady and she had 3 children and her husband beat her and then she left and she'd rather be homeless than take another day of abuse. Well, every fucking woman in the United States goes, oh, she's my new hero. But like, you know, like, be like a step smarter in the game that you're involved in, right? And realize that they're telling you this shit on purpose. They're like, they picked her out of a fucking 1,000 people to tell you this one great story about this woman who's surviving against the odds and standing up against domestic abuse or whatever the fuck, right? Like, so
It is selective. I mean, the news is not the
yeah,
news.
I mean, they're
It's
just
selective.
they're just pumping you up, and I'm sure everybody, or you'd hope everybody, gets that. But like, what I'm saying is, like, there's another side to it, which is you got a whole bunch of people who are homeless and they don't want to be with home. They now are, what are they going to start a new culture of homeless people who live under bridges and like fucking take drugs all day and like go around robbing Amazon packages to live like this? Or is that they're going to be this is their culture?
It is true that there are some people who choose to be homeless rather than work in a cubicle in a corporation, but I think that's a small percentage. Can I do something kind of off topic about homeless?
Well, yeah, knock it out.
When I was in Miami, there was a great little jazz bar down in what used to be downtown Miami, and they kept trying to buy this guy out because they wanted to build a big mall there and all this kind of stuff. And he kept holding out. I noticed when I did a search a couple of years ago, they apparently they had been successful, and so they bought out his little jazz bar. But what him and some other people were telling me was that there had been people who wanted to develop this area for a long time. And so what they did was they moved the welfare organization that, you know, gave them the food stamps or the whatever. They moved it into that neighborhood so that all the homeless came there. So now when I walked down that street to go to that jazz bar, there were homeless all over the place. And everybody told me, don't worry, it's not unsafe. But, you know, it's just homeless. And, you know, if you want to go to that bar, you can walk at night. Don't worry.
Oh, nice.
But they drove down the prices of the real estate there by having the homeless there, and people's businesses, you know, crashed, and people moved their businesses to other places. Yeah. And then they could get that real estate for cheap and then build the mall.
Because they were like basically using the homeless like a pawn.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and I think really that's a great point, Jan, because I think actually it seems to escape senior secular talk here, but he seems to be of the misconception that somehow we actually solve problems in the United States and we don't just find ways to make rich people richer. And so, like, you know, anybody that's got a background and knows about these things knows that the homeless and this idea of sort of integrating them, that's been left, in my opinion. How many years now has this been a huge issue, right? Is we've had this issue for years. And what have the states done about it? Nothing, right? Most states have done nothing. Some states have like little pilot programs where they're trying some tiny house stuff, which is cool, and giving people some dignity. But the conditions under which you get to live there are, listen, fuckhead, like if you're addicted to meth, you can't be smoking meth and living in a tiny house in this community. You have to actually want to become a productive member of society again. And so like, I mean, look at it. There's plenty of places to go live out in the woods and be a meth head, right? But they don't. They always live in the cities because they have to scavenge because that's their lifestyle.
You got to walk to your connection, man.
Yeah, fucking drug addicts, just like.
Okay, so what I want to know is, where is Bill Gates in all of this? He's such a huge philanthropist. Why has he not decided to solve this problem?
Well, but I think to your point that they were upon then, I think they're very much upon now, and we're about to get to it. So, I think maybe it's in a clip further, but let's watch this next one.
So the conditions that brought about the poverty and brought about the homelessness, they're not criminalizing the poverty which leads to it. They're criminalizing the homelessness itself. But as we just established, what if they don't have anywhere to go? There's no more shelters. There's no place they could put a roof over their head. There's no religious institution that will take them in. You're just criminalizing extreme poverty. That's all you're doing. And then, by the way, of course, the next step is what? If you kick them out from one place and they go to another place and they get kicked out from that place and they go to another place, eventually you go round and round, and these people end up being in prison or jail for being homeless. And then
See, so that's the punchline, baby. That is the punchline. So what I'm saying is, here you now finally get it. He seems to think that this is like some kind of a stupid plan that they've made. Like, this is like this error that so many people
Summarize his plan.
In America make is they think that government programs are stupid. And so he's basically critiquing the Supreme Court's decision as if the Supreme Court somehow takes into account, like the effects. And sometimes I suppose they do, but what he's trying to make this statement that does stupid because everybody goes around and around and you're pushing them from one location to the next location to the next location and back. And every time they're getting a fine, and then eventually they can't pay the fine, and so eventually they get arrested for failure to pay the fines, and they're going to prison. And he thinks that's stupid, but that's what he doesn't seem to get is who started the prison industrial complex? Ronald Reagan, right? Like Ronald Reagan he's the fucking guy who started all this shit. So does it surprise anybody that a Republican-controlled Supreme Court makes a decision that is going to astronomically benefit the prison industrial complex? Doesn't surprise me. Seems like just the kind of thing you would expect from a Republican Supreme Court. That's fucking billions of dollars right there, folks. Like billions of dollars in homeless people who are going to be spending time in jail for being homeless. And but I think that's the very clear motivation of, let's put them in jail. We're going to make billions of dollars. I think those Supreme Court justices aren't going to get a little taste of that. Like, if you don't think that that's going on, you got a long way to go.
It'd be a topic for another episode.
Yeah.
How they profit.
So, if you think in terms of the homeless, the individual, I agree with this guy that, it's like short-sighted and that if there were actually ethical people that cared and had hearts and were looking for solutions that actually utilized, somebody with a fucking degree from a university where like they study it, like somehow all these decisions get made in a vacuum. And I think, we're really looking at epidemic, a culture shift.
Yeah, and a lot of people get fooled by the incompetence thing. It's like, oh, they're just stupid. Oh, they just, whatever. But it's incompetence versus intent. If you see enough stuff that looks like incompetence, but there's so much of it, at some point you got to realize there's intent behind that.
Yeah, like billions of dollars for the prison industrial complex by sticking a bunch of homeless people in there. But as much as I say, that's fucked. And I dream of a day when we have control of our democracy again. I also think there's a real problem here that needs to be solved. And the states have had years to solve it. and they in general haven't, and that this is at least a solution. Well, you'll see later. Well, before we go off on some other jazz, let's watch this next clip, because I'm pretty sure this is the one he gets very. Man, let me tell you,
Goes on a rant.
cares about the homeless.
Okay,
a
it's
lot
it's the
while
homeless rant.
He's on vacation
Here it
at
comes.
the beach.
Here it comes.
Jail for being homeless, and then that runs up the cost to the taxpayer when you could have avoided it all and just up front paid for a roof over their head. If you just paid for a roof over their head up front, and by the way, guess what? That saves money more so than leaving them out there. It saves the taxpayer money. And so look, this is just a move from the Supreme Court to criminalize extreme poverty, criminalize homelessness. It says, look, on a city-by-city basis or a state-by-state basis, if you want to ban having any homeless people in public, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to ban homeless people in public, even if there's nowhere else for them to go. So then you're just going to kick them from one place to another place to another place. And again, we're just playing hot potato here. The real answer is to attack the problem at its root, right? The real answer is to mandate that you need a roof.
This guy, he's like he's sort of innocent.
The real answer is to mandate a roof over everyone's head.
You know what? I have to say, I don't say it often about people, but he seems genuine. He seems like he.
You don't say that often. Who are you hanging out with, Paul?
I mean, of people that I watch videos of, most of the time, I think, oh, what the fuck?
Okay.
But this guy, I think he probably believes what he's saying, and like, his heart's in the right place, and he thinks like, I'm gonna make it, like, this is how we could really make a difference here. But he seems to think he lives in a democracy. I think that's maybe the root of his problem is he thinks like anybody gives a fuck, right?
He thinks he has a government that cares about the people.
Yeah, but also he sort of overblows the whole thing. Like, yeah, you can't be homeless, and also you can't even exist. You can't be in public. Well, nobody's saying you can't be homeless and be in public, man. Like, nobody knows if you're homeless unless, guess what?
You can't sleep in public. You
You're
have to be like
sleeping-
alert.
Yeah, because you know what? When's the last time, Jan, you decided to walk downtown and just have a good old nap on the sidewalk someplace? Anybody that's not homeless ever decide, God, I feel a little tired. You know what? I've taken on a few too many tasks.
I think I'll sleep in front of that business's doorway.
I think I'm just going to sleep here. Right?
Are you discriminating against the narcoleptics?
Oh, that's probably true. I probably am. So narcoleptics have a class action lawsuit against the Supreme Court for discrimination, right? So, yeah, because I mean, look at the reality of this is horse shit. Nobody sleeps down fucking town. You don't go downtown and lay on the pavement and then decide, I'm being subjugated because I'm homeless. These people are discriminating against. No, motherfucker, you're sleeping on the sidewalk where people are trying to. I got my goddamn kids and I'm trying to take them into a store and I'm trying to explain to them why your fucking crackheadedness is strewn out in front, right? Like, I'm fucking happy that you're gonna go to jail because maybe, just maybe, you're gonna get your shit together. I don't know. Maybe the fact
in
that
jail, that's where we get our shit together.
Well, you're gonna get your shit together in jail, man. Ain't nobody gonna fucking put up with you little crack laying around trying to steal other people's shit. Okay. You're gonna get cured of those bad habits real fast.
We're going a little far here. Tone it down a bit.
All right. I'm just happy. Yeah, I understand that's going to affect other people negatively, and that not everybody that's homeless is a crackhead. So give me.
But there is no designated place. What he is saying is that, even if the shelters are full, there's no other place to go. And I understand not wanting to be in a shelter, but it's not easy to get to a, field or a forest or something like that.
Well, yeah, I know. No, I'm not saying that there aren't going to be some real injustices that take place.
Okay.
I would say the majority are going to be.
Okay, I'm glad to hear you say that. I would go so far
to say the majority are going to be injustices, but hello, it's a Republican-controlled Supreme Court, and they're looking after their fucking pals that started the prison
So
industrial
his
complex.
crime is being surprised by this.
Where do you live, mate? Where do you live? What do you expect? He
lives in-
wake up, right? This is not, you're not living in a democracy, dude. You're
He
living
lives in
a,
millennialania.
yeah, like they're gonna bat for who fucking put him there. A big shock. So, all right, so this is the last clip from this guy.
Thank God.
And then we just got one special bonus. Let's listen.
His head. But no. I mean, basically what they're saying is homeless people have no rights. And the Eighth Amendment, protection from cruel and unusual punishment, it doesn't apply for homeless people. They're saying it's not cruel and unusual for them to ban you from being in public, even though you have nowhere to go to put a roof over your head. That's not cruel and unusual. To say you can't exist in public. Well, then what the fuck are they supposed to do? They can't exist in public, and they have these laws everywhere. There's nowhere where they can exist in public, and they don't have a place to put a roof over their head. They're basically saying, fuck off, go die. Astonishing.
Yeah, so just they're not saying fuck off, go die. They're saying fuck off, go to prison, right? So it's just a little nuance. It's
You might die in prison, but
yeah, there's a good chance of that, especially if you go around trying to steal people's shit off their front porches. Yeah, fucking, you're gonna pay for that, real. Ain't nobody gonna give you a second chance in the jail with that horse shit. So, but let's just imagine the real, like, okay, so there's two scenarios here, and I think both are legit, right? One, you've got somebody who genuinely has been trying, had some terrible events happen in their
yeah,
life.
they got a bad break.
Yeah, and they are legitimately homeless for the first time in their lives, or maybe it isn't the first time. I don't suppose that matters, but they've been trying, and they've been working and getting exploited by the man for a minimum wage job where they could work 70 hours a week and still not be able to afford a fucking room, right? Like, that's going on. Everybody knows that's happening, right? Like,
yeah.
everybody, the cost of rent now is just ridiculous, and the wages haven't kept up with it. So
And you'll never be able to buy a house, so
like, you don't know that, you don't understand that that's going on, right? So like, this isn't like, this is the always in this what I always aspire to bring attention to. This is the war of 1,000 fronts. We are getting attacked in 1,000 different places at the exact same time. The only problem is that we don't seem to recognize each other as soldiers in the same war. We don't see each other as the same victims of the same assaults, right? And I think there are going to be tens of thousands of genuinely hardworking people who, for whatever reason, have found themselves homeless without the ability to pay first month's and last month's security deposit, and come up with $10,000 or $15,000 in order to move into a place. Perfectly, I completely agree, right? Like, I think they're going to be fucking these people. They're going to be going to jail. The kids are going to be going into.
I think
Child
they're saying
protective
like
services.
the average American can't put their hands on $1,000 or something, you know?
Right. I mean, they're always like some huge percentages a paycheck away from.
So yeah, you're a month away, you're a paycheck away.
So like, yeah,
Scary.
I see that's true, right? And like,
It was true in my life.
and what I'm saying is that shouldn't surprise anybody. And like, the idea that these guys are going to do anything but benefit their rich pals is just an absurdity. And at the same time, I think let's just, at the same time that's true, let me just bring a little reality to the situation about what's really going on right now. And this is just everywhere. This is happening everywhere. So let's watch this last clip. All right, so here they are, right? Look at this guy. Fucking fentanyl, crackheads.
Well, there's an
Just-
Amazon box. Just kidding.
This guy's frozen from that, whatever that fucking new drug is that people just freeze out while they're out there. I mean, so yeah, okay, you get that we're right next to a train station right here. But Like, look at this dipshit. He looks like he just woke up. He's riding a skateboard along, happily on fucking drugs, right? And just motoring around like hobos do. And now we got a whole set of tents set up. I mean, would you feel safe walking through there? I wouldn't.
No.
If I had a gun on me, I would feel okay. But without a gun, without that,
But who wants that inconvenience?
like Jesus, that's a fucking zombie land. And this isn't just, this is Philadelphia. This is happening everywhere. This isn't just, well, I guess Philadelphia's pretty lefty too, but this shit's going on everywhere. These people have developed a new society of drug addicts who are never they don't want a house. They don't give a fuck. They just want their drugs, man. So, like, what? Like, what are we going to do with these guys? We're going to leave them. Let's imagine the counter scenario to Mr. Secular Talk. And let's think about it. Like, okay, so are we going to give these dipshits a house? Right? Like, they'd have the fucking copper ripped out and the electric lines and they'd have sold the microwave and the refrigerator would be gone. No, we're not going to give them a fucking house, right? So what are we going to do? We're going to let them live out on the street so every mother is afraid to fucking drive by locking her doors because we have to mandate that everybody gets a house. And we can't criminalize homelessness. Like, fuck these guys. They're all perfectly. They're not disabled, right? They're not. There's no reason they can't.
Well, any
work.
situation where you're giving people stuff doesn't long term work out.
Unless it's a kick in the ass. And
Okay.
and in that case, I'd say.
But it's like the teach them to fish, don't just give them a fish.
Totally,
So,
right.
jobs and education and, that kind of stuff works better than just giving people stuff because you feel sorry for them. Because then they just want more stuff for free. And
Yeah, you just enable them.
it's like the welfare system doesn't work.
As evidenced by that last video, right? And like these guys are. I mean, well, like, what do you propose? I mean, we always want to have solutions. I say a little bit of jail time sounds like a great place for these guys to get off drugs. Remember that they probably should mind their manners, and think to themselves, you know what, jail sucks. I don't want to come back here. I think I'd like to lead a productive life in society and contribute to society rather than to keep stealing Amazon packages as my main source of income. I don't think it's such a bad idea, but maybe there's others, but
I guess just off the top of my head is we need to prioritize how we spend money in this country, and we need to spend it on things that improve people's lives and improve their ability to earn money, and we need to have plenty of jobs. And for the smaller percentage, I don't know what percentage that is, of people who want to be homeless and free and use drugs and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, maybe you would, arrest them and they got a choice. They go to prison or they go to a rehab center that works. We don't have rehab centers that work in this country. So there's a whole lot of things that need to be revamped before there is a solution. But I do know we're spending way more money on sending it to Ukraine and other countries and not taking care of our own people. It's the same as if, I was a mother with a husband with kids, and I chose to give, over half of my budget to the other kids in the neighborhood and let my kids be malnourished and unsafe,
Yeah, I see. I get you. Yeah, I mean, I think interesting. Anyway, well, so there's our pretty diverse takes on the situation, but tell us yours. Drop us some messages in the comments. We would love to hear I would love to hear. I assume you would love to hear.
You know, we don't know everything. We scour the internet for a lot of videos, and what we want to bring is a compilation and a synthesization, and then our commentary on what's going on out there, so that you don't have to watch multiple 3-hour videos a day and all that sort of thing. But we are interested in your comments, and we are a small channel trying to grow. And we would love it if you would like and subscribe and share and comment and support us.
Yeah, it would be really, really great. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ciao.